Hello there. Good evening. My name is Mr. P.R. Bhaskar, and I am a resident of Louisville, Kentucky. And I thought I would spend some time talking to you on a matter that won't take time but needs immense investment on our part. It is the need of the hour, undoubtedly. And therefore, I decided that I should make a brief presentation to start with, and perhaps at a later stage to have a longer, lengthier deliberation about the subject. I call it the moment of truth. What exactly is happening right now in this world of ours? It's volatile, very violent, and the world seems to be in a mess. So, what is actually happening out here? Is it that, is this any different from the centuries that have gone by? For example, the last century? Yes and no. Yes, there were conflicts all through the millennia, and including in the last century. But the important point that we must not forget is that while it is true that, say, in the last 2 centuries, the ones which preceded the present one, the ability for human destruction, that is self-destruction or destruction of others, was somewhat comparatively limited. Now, as if you go back from Stone Age down to where we are today, we've noticed that the weapons have actually got more and more sophisticated and capable of more and more destruction. So the issue that arises is that we are now at a point in time when we are capable of destroying our planet and ourselves in the process if we go into serious conflicts, wars. I recollect, I believe in the 60s, there was a Hollywood film named The Last War. Ironically, that last war was a fictional movie, and it was predicated on the assumption that there would be a war to end all wars, and that would be the last one. But that never occurred. And we know that even after the Second World War, which was about the most ferocious of last year, followed by the Vietnam War, wars have continued, and they still continue today. Right now, we see on the surface of our planet that lots of things are still happening, which simply means that there is, till now at least, no last war has occurred. And there will be probably many more wars to come, small, big. Hopefully, there's not a world war. That is 21st century repeating what occurred in the last century. That would be dramatic this time. It's not going to be exactly what it was earlier. It's complicated by the fact that you have weapons of mass destruction that are capable of annihilating the entire human race. And along with it, you'll also destroy the planet, you'll destroy flora and fauna, so you're going to affect the environment, the nature, and if there are any, and the universe itself in a way, because it's going to have a cataclysmic effect on the entire system, above and below the surface. So what am I trying to convey out here? That today, any contemplation of war, even on the scale of the wars that were fought in the last century are going to be n times worse. And so one can visualize that you are really reaching in the 21st century a stage when you are capable of creating what is known as the last war. Now, do we want it? So, what happens then? Now, we know that conflicts cannot totally be wiped out. It's in human nature to have conflicts. And there are many dimensions which we cannot go into in a brief presentation at the start, which lead to conflicts. Some are related to the dogs of war, egotistical people trying to impose themselves on others, some for religious crusades, some for economic and other such considerations, some disputes of property, sharing with resources, and what have you. That's not new to us. We all know what the triggers are. But what are the differences as we compare with the previous century? Number one, today's wars are not just going to be conventional weapons wars, they could be cyber wars. The world has become so dependent on the use of computer technology that you're going to have, in addition, or perhaps at the core, wars of a different nature that will completely wreck the financial system, the communication system, the power systems, and whatever, and trigger off reactions. Now, in the process, you have an incident like that occurred in Japan, where nature also was showing its wrath, its fury, its anger. Then you're going to land in a situation where not only are you going to have the consequences of, say, climate change, global warming occurring simultaneously with our warfare, and a quickening of the pace of destruction of the cosmic car that the ozone layer gives us, will expedite it. In the 20th century, as compared to any previous century, we did that. And are we going to do it again? This time, when we do that, we're going to create a scenario where whatever harm that has occurred in 21st century by way of environmental changes, they are going to be much, much more dramatic. There are no winners and losers here. In fact, in no wars really there are winners and losers. There's only destruction. So, what's the solution then? The solution is merely the age-old one, which seers have shared with us over centuries. We have heard them, but we never really listened to them. So, peace efforts, diplomacy, negotiations, settlement of disputes in a manner other than through military means is the only solution that one can visualize at this point in time. I do hope good sense prevails upon the leaders of the world and everyone out there that it is not, it will be self-destruction to indulge in anything but this. There's no point in accumulating all these weapons, especially nuclear weapons. Using nuclear energy for peaceful purposes was one thing. But what's the point in developing all these weapons? They're going to be of no use at all. You are now set in such a situation that if one nation triggers something, automatically something else will arrive from there to hit you. And ultimately it's going to destroy everybody. And if it destroys everything in its path, like a tsunami, then I'm sorry that the race is doomed to perdition. So let's take charge of ourselves and resolve this very moment never to proceed on a, shall we say, broadly speaking, a war footing to resolve the problems that will confront us in the decades to come. One decade alone, the first decade of the 21st century, has shown us that this indeed has not been the case. Conflicts are continuing. But unless some sense of equity and some sense of concern for fellow beings is shown by us, these conflicts will only multiply. So, whoever takes the lead is not material. Perhaps the collective lead. But all the leaders of the world need to ponder this and then find solutions. So, all I'm saying is give peace a real chance as you have never done before. Thank you, and you have a pleasant evening.